Howdy folks, it's Meandering Mike in the man cave of madness. It is before midnight, and we are doing an unboxing of Compass Games' latest release, World War II Campaigns, 1940, 1941, 1942. This is a reprint of GDW's World War II games in their 120 series, Series 120. We'll talk a little bit about those. Let's look at the back of the box. But before we do that, it's kind of glary, so let's remove the shrink. And the shrink is off. We're taking a look at the back of the box here. First mentioned the GDW 120 series that these are reprinting. We look here at the top. It talks about that here, that the 120 series games were normally 120 counters or less and designed to play in 120 minutes, roughly, give or take, right? So the three titles here is 1940, Battle of France, 1941, Operation Barbarossa, and 1942, Japanese campaigns in Malaya, Java, and the Philippines, all right? So if we look here at the stats area, we can see it's low to medium complexity, which, varies per game. It says the scale of the map and the time varies, etc. There for 1 to 2 players. Really, each game is a 2-player game, but it's medium solitaire suitability, just playing both sides against each other. Classic old school war games with not a lot of hidden information and such. And there, as it says, 120 minutes per gameplay on average. Now, obviously, there's 3 maps, 3 games, but it says 2 counter sheets. Now, if we go back here and look here, obviously the 3 games each have their own counters. These are originally published separately. They somehow have put together the counter sheets for the 3 games on 2 counter sheets. So it's interesting to see that. 3 player aids, obviously 1 for each. 3 rule booklets, 1 for each. And 3 6-sided dice, it says. So I guess normally each game just needed die 6. I don't know why you need 3 necessarily, but maybe they're color-coded or something. Who knows? We'll find out. All right, so let's take a look inside the box. And the cover's been removed. The box is ready to look at. One thing to notice on the front cover, it says here, Soviet Union. Well, as we saw, there are 3 games in there. Only one of them has the Soviet Union, the 1941 scenario. So some people might get a little confused when they see this. This is all about, Soviet Union campaigns. Does that include the Winter War against Finland and whatnot? No, only one of these games is there. So I don't know. I might have left that off. the cover, a little confusion there, but it is what it is. All right, so baggies for the counters. Only 3 of them, so it'd be nice to have more so that you could sort each side in each game to have their own baggies. The 3 dice, as they mentioned. All right. Now I'm going to tilt this down and zoom in a little more here so you can see this better. All right. So, as I mentioned, 3 rule books. All right. Nice color, glossy. They all feel about the same width, 12 pages. Well, this one has advertisement on the back. Where's that first one here? Had rules all the way throughout, 12 pages. This one goes up through 11 pages. It's advertisement for Russia besieged. And then this one is thicker. This definitely has more. Well, actually, there's a sheet of paper behind it there. It's still thicker. Oh, now, okay, so here is the 2 counter sheets, the manifests. We can see here, okay, 1941, some 1940. These are also 1940. So, interesting. So the front and back of the 1942 are here. Oh, is that really front or back? No, I think we're just seeing that's the front, and we're not seeing the backs at all. So it's a manifest of the fronts, but we don't see the backs of the counters. So let's actually find the counters. All right, so digging in. Oh. Clarifications, okay. So there's actually some errata. Slightly misnumbered hexes. A reference to the rulebook page that they didn't get when they converted from old rulebook to new rulebook on the train effects chart. So that's for one game. So the 1941 game doesn't have any clarifications around at this point. The 1940 has those two. 1942. Here's an extra counter. Okay, it says tank and armored. They're it's 2 tanks and 1 armored cavalry. So off map. All right, so minor errata, some clarifications. Cool. All right, charts and tables. All right, 1940. All right, nice big train effects chart. Picture. Balloon cost, the common effects, all in one place. That's the way I like it. That's the way I like it. No reason splitting up on one chart, having the cost and then in one cart the combat. No, all in one place. Thank you very much. The 1942 played. Okay, that's only one single-sided, so they fit it all on one page here. Tirchi, Victory, Hong Kong Assault. Naval movement point allowances. Wow. The Dutch, they don't get to move very much compared to this. All right. 1941. That's also only single-sided. So it's interesting that they made these very big and readable, but they put them on both sides. Look at those. Look at, I can even read those with my crappy eyesight. All right. Mine aren't that bad, but I'm trying to read small. I mean, this is small print, but it's not that small. I can read these okay. All right. Yeah, it's unfortunate there's not a picture of the. I think these are, the maps are simple enough that they're just like kind of color coded. Let's take a look at the maps. Here we are. Okay, so these are very thick. It almost feels like vinyl. It's like a coated paper. Wow, that is not a fold. All right. Oh, they are thick and poofy. All right. So let's look at those counters before we look at the 3 maps. All right, we have. Let's get this into the shiny, glossy shrink wrap. So these are big counters. The original had 1/2-inch counters. Are those 9/16 or 5/8? Those are big. I think those might be 5/8 inch. Wow, that's so easy to read. Big numbers. I mean, even the unit designations are easy enough to pick out. So they're being kind on old eyes. Okay. So here's the back. There's 2 counter sheets in there, but they're just color coded and the number so they've got them all mixed up. 1941, 42 with some 40s in there. So obviously the original counters were single-sided, and they're just helping you sort and keep them, not mix them up. Get them in your baggies, or if you're going to put a tray in there. Oh, these big poofy maps, it might be difficult to fit a tray in there. We'll have to see. But let's go ahead and take the shrink off on this guy here so we can see both counter sheets. And the shrink is removed. And so here is the front of the second counter sheet. So we zoom in a little bit and look at part of it. They're fairly glossy. They're not super glossy. They're not matte. but they are a bit glossy. So for this particular game, 1942, these are obviously unit strengths, I would say, and their movement allowances are probably standard. Now, we saw that naval movement chart thing, but I don't see naval units. So obviously it sounds like what they're meaning is like a transport naval movement is the moving a line unified by Navy. You know, how far, how fast can you move it? Can you project your troops? There appears to be no actual naval units. There's some air markers, right? But I see no units. So interesting that these here. So let's look at, yeah, we saw that back. These are for 1940 here. That's what we were seeing the back of. But so they fit them here because they're red. So they put them on that. Whereas here, so red units 1940. I'm wondering, that's curious, what are those? Yes, they're the reserves of some kind. And they just elected to make them red in 1940. France. I mean, so they're not Japanese, they're not Russians. So we'll have to take a look to figure out. So they actually don't. So obviously this is the Germans and the French, and there you've got the SS units here. Here's the British color, the BEF. I'm going to guess that these are probably Belgians and or Dutch. In the 1941. So, right, okay, so the Germans are the same color across the two games. They're this greenish, somewhat grayish color. And I'm assuming these are the various Axis minors. It says Axis, but this is 3R, 4R, 6F. So we're going to have Romanians and Italians and a Hungarian, I guess. So, all right. That is those. I'm so very why those were chosen to be red. All right. Now you're anxious to see the maps. Well, let's do them in chronological order. Oh man, like I said, this is really hefty, sturdy, big hexes. God, those are like 1-inch hexes. Wow, so 5/8 counters and 1-inch hexes. It's like a delight. So these original maps of the game were like 17 by 22s, if I remember right. I don't have all the, I think I have half or more of the 120 series, and of these, all right, folks, let me wrestle this into place with the little magic of slightly back folding. These things are not going to lie flat on their own. You need to use glass or plexiglass or a little judicious back folding. You can get it to lie somewhat flat. Obviously here I'm putting it against my backdrop, because if I had it out, it'd hang off the table here and you would be able to see the whole thing. So, Holland, Germany, Belgium. It's actually technically incorrect to call it Holland. Holland's a portion of the Netherlands. It should be called the Netherlands. Luxembourg, the Ardennes Forest. Look at those big, thick rivers. Obviously, the Rhine and the Meuse River there. Those are not easy to cross. Now, I don't see any specific bridge markings, so it'll be interesting to see. Oh, there is one here. There's one there. All right. Which interesting that at this scale, the bridges at Arnhem and what would be Nijmegen, not even on the map. So how would they do the crossings will be interesting. Okay. So here, I'm going to zoom in a little bit. These are reserves, Army reserves. Like they've got the 4 X's, the Army unit designation. So I guess that is where those units start or can come out of. Like, maybe you have a pool of them off the side and you can put on those red ones. Did you know that this is green and those were red? So I would have matched the color coding or something myself, but again, there might be a reason for that. So nice big repeat here of the key, but not the actual train effects, which, you've got it on that player aid. However, yeah, it should have been here too. If you're already doing this, include the effect. I mean, this is nice and big and readable, but you can still make it readable and still fit it on here. These actual hex here to show what it looks like could be smaller for the key. All right, yes, very color-coded, rough woods, wooded rough mountain. Now, I don't know if they tested those colors for color blindness, being able to differentiate, I can easily tell, the mountain within the rough, but some people might not. I don't know. All right, so let's see. A little last look around up there. We can see that's a 10-turn track. The first, actually, turn 0. It's 0 to 10. There's actually 11 turns. So that's special turn 0. However, I don't know. That might be like a German double move. Like the Germans get to go for a partial turn, and then they also get to go on turn 1. As the Allies don't react initial. So normally 4, 5, 5 days per turn, except the first one is the 2 days. All right, so that is this first one. Let us now produce the next one. And we now have 1941 here. Operation Barbarossa. See, ranging from Finland, Greater Germany, Hungary, Romania, Bulgaria, Soviet Union. Nice, simple terrain. They have a little smaller one here, terrain key, but also none of the effects, except some mention of Victory Point Major City stuff there. Again, it would have been nice to fit the full terrain effects on the map, but you do have the player aid card. All right, so we got the Pripyat Marsh. Obviously here we've got the Carpathian Mountains, the Dniester, the South Bug River, the North Bug River, Vistula, the Vina, Donets River, the Don, the Koper, the Volga. Oh, yep, Stalingrad, the Volga here. Oh, you can't even see that. This is off. Yeah. There we go. There's the Volga. There's Stalingrad here. Sevastopol. Gotta get the accent on the right syllable. Not Sevastopol, but Sevastopol. Rostov. Kharkov. Kyiv. Say it the Ukrainian way. out of respect. All right, obviously Moscow, Tula, Smolensk, Minsk. Pinsk is in there somewhere, not on the map. It's a stone throw from Minsk. Vitebsk, Mogilev, Vyazma. So different places. Yeloliki, Luki, obviously Stalingrad, or excuse me, Leningrad, slip, Stalingrad, Leningrad, Riga, etc. So there we go. That's a pretty standard East Front, at this scale. We'd have to consult the rulebook. Doesn't say on the map what the scales, which would be nice, actually. They've got a legend. They don't have the compass on here, and I'm not sure if that's actually exactly north. Let me screw this back up here. I don't see an actual compass. The tilt. Isn't that more north? Have to see and compare. All right. So this one here, which you can't see because it's down here, is the turn track, which has 10 turns. There's no turn 0 in this one. So let me adjust and go down here. There we go. You can see that. 10 turns. The air points. The first number is Axis and Soviet air. So that not until turn 5 to the Soviets, because obviously they're being wiped out here. And the reason they only have 2 air points the first turn is they're spending the time destroying the Soviet Air Force. All right. And then you start having more air points available for, supporting close air support. And then contesting of the skies happen, which starting here, December, the Soviets actually have more air superiority. All righty. There, of course, can't forget Odessa. We didn't mention Odessa. Now, that is interesting. So some of these have 2 numbers. Number size is the German control. The German gets 2 points. If encircled, the German gets 1 point. Minus number is if Soviet controlled. So, interesting. If you don't take the ones with the minus signs on them, the Germans are paying the price. They're getting negative. It's like, you got to take these. The ones with the positive numbers are, hey, if you take it, you get some points and maybe some influence. So just encircling Sevastopol, no victory points. But if you actually take it, it's worth 1. Whereas Moscow up there's it's a 2-1. You take it, or it should be Moskva. Pronounce it as they pronounce it. If you encircle it, 1 point. 2 points, you can actually take it. Same thing up there with Leningrad. Oh, you can't see that because I'm not putting it. Leningrad. There's actually 2. Those red are fortification X's. So that's the red. I was thinking it was just important, but Sevastopol, Odessa, which held out quite well historically. Well, of course, it was mostly the Romanians that were investing in under siege and developing. But Moscow, I'm surprised that Tula wasn't fortified. Maybe that was just not naturally as fortified, but they did some quick reinforcements there, entrenching, etc. But two hexes for Stalingrad for the fortification aspect. All right, so we've got here the Barbarossa, 1941. So let's get the next one. And we have the 1942. Now, this 1942 map is the same size as the 1940 map. That 1941 was actually a little bigger. This happens to have the long orientation, though, in the 1940 map, had the vertical one. but they're the same size. It's interesting that it comes out with the label. It has to be set this way, but everything is vertically this way with the long end running here. Now, we've got good old French Indochina, Siam. It was called Thailand, which was called Siam back then. Burma, which we now know as Myanmar. The Malaya Peninsula, Singapore. Okay. Now, this one does not mark over here. And I'm going to assume that's fortified. That might be fortification. Singapore, Corregidor. Those are actually, well, technically those are, both islands right off the coast. But that's not on the key here. So the Philippine Islands, Luzon and Mindanao, Borneo, split into Dutch Borneo, North British Borneo, Brunei, Sarawak, Sumatra, Java. Now, I've always pronounced this as the Celebes. I don't know if that's actually the right pronunciation. Maybe I should look that up. Yeah, it's too bad that they didn't label all these islands here. The Flores Sea, Bali. So, is that part of Papua? I do not know. Okay, here. There is a little tiny compass here that says that's exactly north. All right. Now, it's interesting here. This is naval movement prohibited, this area. I have no idea. Is there a lot of reefs and shoals and stuff in that area? I've never seen that on various, War in the Pacific type maps. I've never seen a prohibited zone there. So that'll be interesting to find out about that. All right, there, the equator line. All right, so we've got some points, whether these are victory points or some kind of resource value. I'm going to assume it's victory points. But, 4 for Singapore. Yeah, wow. Saigon. Big, important say Bangkok, Rangoon, Manila, and Corregidor. Interesting that that's 4. Now, Palau does not have a number. All the marked dots with a name, they all have... Palau is probably already owned by the Japanese. That's my guess. That's why there's not a point marker on it. My guess is they start with Palau. If you know, you can post in the comments. All right, so there's a 1942 map. Let's take a quick look at the rule books. Let me fold this up, put this, and the maps are away, and the rule books are out. We'd taken a look at the front and the back and the length. We have taken a peek inside. All right, so I'm going to zoom in a bit so you can see more of that. The font is pretty decently sized. Table of contents. Okay, good. They show the original copyright information and stuff. So all the original credits. And now the new credits here. All right. reserves. All right. So, movement, combat, recovery, second impulse. So there's two. Interesting. So second movement phase half. Special movement activities may occur. All right, so full move, combat, recovery. Half move, combat, recovery. And there's no limitation. Units that moved in the first move may also move and have combat in the second. Interesting, interesting. So the potential for counterattack there. If the allies, they get their two phases, there might be some temptation to make some kind of counterattack if you can muster the right strength in the right place. Stacking. Maximum of 4 divisions in a hex. All right. Zones of control. Cease movement. If it starts, it may exit at a cost of 1 movement point. So it's not sticky. Non-motorized may not go zone to zone, but motorized might. It can. All right, so cool. Combat. It's attack limited attacker. So yeah, pretty standard. Defender retreats. Defender eliminated. Disruptions. Disrupt unit loses its zone of control. Strange hiccup. But as I was saying, if you're disrupted, unit loses its zone of control. Retreats. Retreating 2 hexes when you retreat. May not retreat into his zone of control unless occupied friendly. But a motorized unit may. Okay. Advance after combat. Pretty standard stuff. Supply rules. Air power. Fortifications. Important part of the France 1940 campaign. Including Ibn Amel in Belgium, minor fortifications. Maginot Line, special rules for there. Outflanking of the fortifications. Airborne operations, obviously, that was important in assaulting the fortifications, what they did in Belgium. Special rules on armor. Special combat bonus under certain circumstances. Only when attacking alone or in conjunction with friendly motorized units. All right. Neutrals of Holland, Belgium, Luxembourg, and Switzerland. Always neutral unless invaded. Don't invade them. It doesn't make sense. Reserves and reinforcements. So those reserves appear on the map at certain locations depending on nationality. Appear at the start of the movement phase of the first impulse. All right. I don't think it's not telling me why those ones were red. German may bring in two of his reserves. French turn 1. All right, Swiss border reserves. Interesting. They totally modeled Switzerland. I just don't think, well, I don't know. Maybe there's a plan for trying to sneak through Switzerland to get into France around the Maginot that way. So, don't know. Some optional units. Some German Panzer Corps. German Mountain Corps. French Armored Corps. Planning and Development. Command. Restrictions on the BEF. French command restrictions. It'll be interesting to see. And even some German command restrictions on turns 0 and 1. Alrighty. The attack. Game turn 0. It's the attack. Special rules. Short nature. 2 days instead of 5. And victory points. Losses. Interesting. Different plans. So there was different plans. Clear the Maginot, capture Paris, capture the northern French and Belgian cities. Interesting. So, and certain options. All right. Those are actually Swiss Army. They're the Swiss Army. So those are not reserves for those reserve army boxes that were on the map. These are the Swiss. Now, we're normally seeing the Swiss red and white cross, but it's like normally feels more equal balance in the red and the white color. So seeing just the white on the red background certainly didn't make me think of Swiss, but now it makes sense. All right. Next up, group 1941. They're staying with the standard layout here. Table of contents, game components, sequence of play. First ground segment coming, second ground segment. So there is the same. Now again, this might not be exactly the same. So in this case, the second ground segment, we get their full movement allowance. Okay, so whereas in the first 1940, they had half movement allowance in the second. Stacking. Is the stacking any different? 2 core units per hex. The Soviet Union, except for they may have 1 unit of any size plus 1 core sized unit. 2 cores, a core and a group, or a core and an army. You could not stack 2 groups, 2 armies, or a group and an army. All right, interesting. So much less stacking here in the 1941. Zones of control, 6 surrounding. Infantry must cease movement once entering a hex. If it begins, it may leave at no cost, no extra cost. Armor is not required to stop. Move directly to another as long as neither entering or exiting scroll of armor type unit. So you can freely penetrate the infantry. Zone of controls are porous to armor. Alrighty, combat. There's an exchange. It didn't appear to be an exchange that I saw in the 1940. It's only 1 hex retreats. So depending, the scales being different makes sense between the different games. So there's some similarities and some differences. Supplies, special armor rules, air power, fortifications. We saw those shock armies, Soviet shock armies, 4 of them. Special rules. So the shock armies have like a larger combat strength, but they only get to use that if they were in place. So if they moved, they're at half strength. Shock army may never advance after combat. Interesting. They're designed to hit heavy and hard, but they're not the ones to penetrate. All right, weather. Reinforcements, replacements, Axis nations, Hungary, Finland. Okay, so some of those ones were Finnish units. So my guess is they don't. Let's see. Did we see? Let's see again. The rule. The counters did not label the nationality. Did we see in their components? So the F Finnish, R Romanian. So there are no Hungarian units. Romanian, okay, Romanian, Finnish, nothing marked Hungarian, nothing marked Italian. When did the Italians show up? Was that not until early 42? I thought they had some token forces that were there early, but My memory could be failing me. We already looked at stacking going. All right, so turn 1 invasion. There's no special turn 0, but there are many exceptions here. All right. Optional rules. Soviet naval ability. Partisans. Bombing the Soviet railroads. Soviet winter counter-offensive. So remember there was 10 turns? You normally end on turn 7, and it's optional rule to do the Soviet winter counteroffensive turn 8, 9, and 10. Okay. So let's look at 1942. All right. Now, departure. We do not have the sequence of play right here. So that's interesting that we got turn sequence over here, but not that initial overview here. Combat strength and identification, air unit, fortress, location, amphibious, marine units. Okay. Movement phase, land movement segment. 2 phases, movement and combat. All right. Air movement, naval movement, then the combat phase. All right, so units may be moved by sea using naval movement. So right, that we saw in that chart, the fact that the Japanese have around 12 or 16 points depending on the turn. They can go zipping around. The other guys only had like 2. It's like, all right, you can hop from one island to the other, and that's it. That's your extent of naval movement for the Allies in this scenario, this early 1942 part of the war in and around Southeast Asia and the islands, Philippines, Java, etc. All right, stacking. No more than 4 infantry units. Any number of other units, so obviously air, etc. Movement. Road, island hopping. All right, island hopping. Spend your entire movement allowance. Hop. So actually, as part of land movement. Adjacent hex. So it's only 1, but it's an air movement. All right, here's naval. Amphibious invasion. Naval movement points, as we saw, 2 for the British, Dutch, and American. Special movement abilities. Japanese airborne troops. Advance after combat. All right, so obviously we're getting die roll modifiers because it ranges from 0 to 10. Maybe call for, all right. Unfortunately, right here, it'd be nice to have on the same page of the chart. Again, there's the player aid, but it'd be nice to structure your rule book such that either you got all the explanations here or you push this to the next page where you have those explanations. Retreats, disrupted, surrender. Overwhelmed and surrender. So defender surrender is what we saw up there on the... If you can get an 8 or more, no matter your 1-to-1 odds or greater, if you got the pluses and you're all good enough, you get defender surrender. So at 6-to-1 odds, So normally, if you're 6 units with no modifiers, they'll surrender on a 5 or a 6. Otherwise, defender eliminates. So what is the difference between... Is it eliminate is like eliminating 1 unit or the whole stack? All units in the stack are eliminated and immediately move in place. Surrender. Okay, it's effect on victory. That's it. So physically, there's no difference between eliminating except for fortifications. You have to get a defender surrender for units in a fortress. Okay, so good old Corregidor and Singapore. You're going to have to, in a sense, siege them and keep hitting them until you get that surrender. Die roll modifications, air support, amphibious invasions, fortresses, supply, air units. All right, that's a whole bunch of special rules here. American under preparedness, Filipino movement restrictions, Allied naval movement a restriction other than only being able to move 2. The way this is, each of the 3 allied nations has an independent NMP, naval movement point allowance. Each may only use its own NMPs to move its troops. Yeah. But I'm wondering, that almost sounds like not, per unit. It's like you can move 2 movement points worth each nation per turn. Used in the specific counter itself, not be transferred. Okay, right. So this is the total. So you might be moving something here that moves 6, and this one moves 2, and that one moves 4, that's 12, etc. So it's like a grand total, whereas the Japanese have some units that have their own allowance each turn. So your net total naval movements plus some of these guys can move each turn, but only for that unit. So that's a Meandering Mike quickie shorthand analysis. Obviously, anything this is not reading the rules. This is doing our little in-depth look more than most unboxings. It's like I call it, sort of like a forensic exam. I'm trying to just dig in and look and understand and see. What's there comparing to my knowledge of other war games and such. And sometimes we make assumptions. You know what happens when you make assumptions. So again, don't assume that I'm right when I'm making a sort of a supposition, a guess here of what certain things mean. You will for yourself if you play, but you might be, interested in what I say that might interest you. Oh, those interesting rules, or I want to know more about that or whatnot. Victory. To clear the map of allied units. That's the goal. Kill them all. Playing the game. So some strategy here, talking about the disposition of the units and what to do. All right. It'd be nice. I mean, here's the equivalent of like a player aid-ish card on this sheet, but instead of actually saying what these results are, they say, go look at Rule 6. Look, you got this empty space. Push, move this around. Put a little short explanation of what those are. I mean, at least name them. Surrender, eliminate, disrupt, retreat. Yeah. Boop, boop, boop. There we go. Table of contents on the back. All right, that's different, but it is nice to have this. And again, we didn't need to know the backs because the backs just had the which game was it from? 1940, 1941, 1942. So you could photocopy these to make, spares or as a backup if you lose counters, etc. And those look to be actual real size, almost. About this the same size. Close. Yeah, I think it is. All right. That was Meandering Mike, Man Cave of Madness. This was our look here at 3 games in 1. The Compass Games World War II Campaigns. Not just about the Soviet Union. Part of the Series 120. There's a whole bunch of Series 120 games. They've got things on the Crimean War and science fiction ones. It was a certain, format, a certain number of counters, 120 less, 120 minutes of play was the goal, etc. But these are the World War II campaigns in that series, and hopefully Compass Games will keep reprinting more of those. Some of them aren't necessarily that popular, so I don't know if or when they'll get reprinted or not. We'll obviously see depending on the success of this product and how much it sells. So I think this one's going to be pretty popular. I think there's some good nostalgia for some classic old war games, and the fact that these are nice, easy to read, big counters, big maps. Those are nice, sturdy material for those maps. So some people want, mounted maps. Well, that would have been, too heavy, too expensive. But these were nice quality maps for not being mounted maps. So, well, folks, so we'll get all these pieces spliced together, and you'll have this nice unboxing. So if you've played any of these in the past, if you had a favorite one of these, let me know in the comments, and let me know if you're thinking of buying this or one or not, which one you think sounds most interesting to you. Like, if you're going to get this, which one do you want to gravitate towards first? What's your goal of playing first? I've got other playthroughs I need to film, and I'm tempted for this to jump the queue, but I'm resisting. I have to at least finish some things. So maybe this summer I'll get to this, early summer, or I might sneak a play in. We'll see, but probably not. Certainly not in February. Probably not in March, but maybe in April. But probably not until June. Anyway, so all you good folks out there, take care and ciao.